A few months ago, I got a call from the head of Holocaust education at an organization called Sharaka. Founded after the signing of the Abraham Accords, Sharaka, which means partnership in Arabic, creates person-to-person opportunities for moderate Muslims from around the world to come to Israel and Poland to connect with Israelis and gain a better understanding of Jews and our story. It is an incredible organization doing work no one else is doing, creating bonds that transcend borders and beliefs. So when Sharaka invited me to join their delegation to this year's March of the Living, I was delighted. For those who don't know, March of the Living takes place every year on Yom HaShoah, Israel's official Holocaust Remembrance Day, that aligns with the anniversary of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, an historic and tragic moment of Jewish bravery and defiance. This is not to be confused with International Holocaust Remembrance Day, which takes place in January on the anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz, a historic moment in which an army of non-Jews came upon 7,000 barely alive Jews who happened to be left in an empty death camp the Soviets didn't know anything about. So you can tell which holiday was planned by the Jews and which by the Goys, but I digress. March of the Living brings thousands of people from all over the world to walk the 1.2 miles from Auschwitz, which is mostly administrative and staff buildings, to Birkenau, also known as Auschwitz II, which was the main extermination site where Jews were either gassed to death or enslaved. The march mirrors the death marches the Nazis forced prisoners to walk in the freezing snow from Birkenau to Auschwitz as the Soviet army closed in, so they could destroy the evidence of their crimes and kill more Jews while they were at it. But again, I digress. I was touched and excited that Sharaka wanted me to join them for such a meaningful delegation and for what would be my first time in Germany or Poland. But already having a major international trip planned to Azerbaijan, which I've already told you about on this show, I thought it was probably too much time away from my family. But when I told my wife about the trip, she told me that not only should I go, I had to go. She would hold down the fort with 2 young kiddos, yet again, so that I could fly thousands of miles away to participate in this important work. Get you a partner like that. Major weekly shout out to Courtney. Fast forward to the 27th of Nisan, the day of the Jewish calendar on which we celebrate Yom HaShoah. After so many years and movies and stories and books and photos, I was finally standing at the gates of Auschwitz. The 2 things that struck me most about this epicenter of death were its size and its color. So many buildings, so much ground, just a massive operation. I especially felt this in Birkenau, which was shockingly vast. It was also really something to see the place in color, an experience my friend Amy had alerted me to. Shout out to Amy. We only see Auschwitz in black and white photos, but to be there and see its green fields, its deep red brick buildings, the brown of the dirt and mud and wooden train track slats, it jolted the past into the present. This is where it happened, where real atrocities happened to real people. To be honest, I didn't find the march itself particularly impactful. To me, it felt similar to a charity walk. We're all there for a very good and important reason, but the actual activity of the thing is basically chit-chatting with whoever's around you as you walk. Now imagine it's very different for survivors and their families, of which I am neither. But simply being there, in the place, I actually felt the same way I had when I visited the Nova site in Reim during my trip to Israel last October. In both places, I felt a sense of connection, of almost familial belonging. These are Jewish graveyards. And though the way these people were murdered was horrific and unfair and unthinkably sad, I felt like I was there to honor them, to remember them, to ensure the endurance of their legacy. I felt like I was on hallowed ground, our ground, and there was a sense of comfort in that. But I want to return to the Sharaka of it all, because really this trip afforded me 2 parallel experiences. One was my first time visiting Germany and Poland, and the other was my first time spending 4 days on a bus through Europe with 20 Muslims. And what surprised me was how much more eye-opening the latter experience was for me than the former. Our delegation was truly eclectic, and I tried to engage with every single person in the short time we had together. I thought I had come to teach them about Jews, and I did, through many different conversations and connections. But by the end of our time together, I realized what I'd really come to do was learn about them. And as I did, I could see assumptions I didn't even know I was harboring turn to dust and float away. There was a large contingent of Moroccans on the trip, most of whom were in their 20s or early 30s. Other than the fact that they're Muslim and smoke an insane amount of cigarettes, there was nothing different between us. Nothing. They could have been any of my friends from home. Thoughtful, compassionate, educated, connected to their religion but not ruled by it, generous, funny, a great hang. I was especially taken by 21-year-old Sheikh Rizki Sherakwai, the youngest Sufi sheikh in the world, a descendant of the Prophet Muhammad himself. He and I made a special connection right away, and he made it very clear to me that Sufism is about the heart and soul and spirit, whether one is Jewish, Muslim, or anything else. He gave me a sort of mantra to pray on, Ya Basir, all-seeing. And when we parted, he promised to be with me in my soul. We also use WhatsApp. One of my favorite moments from the trip was when the sheikh led the other Moroccans in a spontaneous Muslim singing session on the bus. I swear it was like being at Jewish summer camp again. Arabic and Hebrew are incredibly similar languages, not just in how they sound and are spoken, but historically and literally in the words themselves. I mean, salam alaikum and shalom aleichem, that's about as close as it gets, right? And also the energy, the joy, the laughter, the clapping, the ruach. It couldn't have sounded or felt more familiar. There were a number of really smart and interesting folks from Pakistan, Afghanistan, Jordan, and Syria, none of whom I can tell you about because simply going on such a trip is legitimately dangerous for them. Think about that. People who care so much about connecting to Jews, who want to understand the truth about us and Israel and our history so badly, they are willing to do so at great personal risk. Could you see yourself doing that? I spent a lot of time in conversation with Luai Ahmed, a Yemeni ex-Jew hater who, after a lifetime of indoctrination, became de-radicalized when he saw the shocking lack of condemnation for the atrocities of October 7th and realized everything he'd been taught was upside down. He's now an outspoken advocate for Jews and Israel on social media, and he told me that as a liberal Arab, he feels more at home in Israel than just about anywhere else. I also loved meeting Jonathan El-Khoury, a Lebanese Christian who lives in Israel and defends his home proudly, also as an online advocate. And I so enjoyed spending time with Marzouk Abdul Jami, a gentle and loving 82-year-old African-American imam from Texas, who has devoted his life to traveling the world to bring people of all faiths together. My most meaningful conversation was with the group's youngest participant, a 20-year-old French-Moroccan student named Mia. I look up to Mia. Here's why. At her boarding school in Paris, Mia had a single book of Hebrew on her shelf because she's taken it upon herself to learn Hebrew because that's who Mia is. She has many Jewish friends in Morocco and Paris and feels a real deep connection to our community. When another student saw this Hebrew book in Mia's room, she started getting all kinds of hate as people assumed she was Jewish, including somebody carving a swastika into her bedpost. Did Mia explain to these kids that they were mistaken, that she wasn't a Jew? No. She didn't say a word because she didn't want them to apologize and be nice to her just because they learned she wasn't Jewish. She'd rather them think she was a Jew and dislike her. That's why I look up to Mia, who I think has a Jewish soul, and cried when I told her so. In America, in the Jewish community, in whatever social or political group you are a part of, there are moderates and extremists, and the former usually greatly outnumber the latter. The extremists are just louder. We all know this to be true, and yet for some reason, we are slow to apply this idea to groups outside of our own. We think, I'm a moderate American. Don't judge me by the far-left radicals you see on the news or the far-right neo-Nazi bad guys in the movies. And then we turn around and look at the Muslim world and judge all 2 billion of them by the extremists we see on the news and the bad guys we see in the movies. Not only is it morally wrong to paint every member of a group with the same brush, but we're also making the world a darker place for ourselves when we paint over the many kindred spirits out there just waiting to connect with us. Now, maybe you're one of those folks who thinks, well, if there are so many Muslim allies, why don't I ever hear from them? I want to answer this in 5 ways. Number 1, like I said on the show last week, there's the whole algorithm thing. The same way you have no idea what life is like for moderate Muslims in, say, Pakistan, because you don't personally know or follow anyone from Pakistan, the same holds true in reverse. They don't see on their feed what you see on yours. They're not ignoring us. They have nothing to ignore. Number 2, As I mentioned, for Muslims in more extremist countries, there can be actual physical danger for openly associating with Jews or Israel, especially right now because of the war. These moderate folks are eager to engage privately and wish they could be more supportive publicly. They just can't. Number 3, again, as I mentioned, my new friends like Luai, Jonathan, and Mia are showing up for Jews in Israel, as are many other Arab and Muslim influencers and individuals. These voices exist. If you want to be hearing them, go find them. Just because you haven't yet doesn't mean they aren't out there. And that's true in the real world too. Don't go, where are all the Muslims, if you've never ventured outside your community to seek them out. Why is it only their responsibility to appear at our side in a moment of need if we never did anything whatsoever to build the relationship first? Number 4, do you take time out of your life to go online and speak about issues affecting moderate Muslim communities abroad? I'm guessing most of you don't. So why is it fair to assume Muslims are just going to do the same for you? Number 5, you would never want to be judged by the most extreme elements of your society. So why would you turn around and do that to somebody else? There is so much more that connects us than divides us. Let this be a comfort to you. We have friends, many friends, who want to understand and love and support us. Certainly not everybody, but enough. Great moments of change have never required everybody. They just require the best of us and the best of them to work together. And that's always been enough to push humanity forward. There's a reason they call it building bridges and not walking across bridges that magically appear for you. I have these amazing new relationships now because I traveled thousands of miles to go get them. Building takes effort, but doing so in sharaka, in partnership, makes the rewards oh so sweet. And I hope one day, if you haven't already, you'll get to experience them for yourself. Inshallah. This is the 32nd episode of Being Jewish with me, Jonah Platt.